My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireball's Dispatch, our monthly Q&A, listener response, topics, announcement episode.
Yeah, finishing out the month. I can't believe July is almost over. We're talking about reading your responses to Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door, and Quake. So I included more of each one, more responses to each of those later on. And we have a bunch of good questions here.
Yeah. Also, just an announcement for the group. I'm wearing new shorts.
Oh.
It's great. I decided to get myself some shorts. It's unseasonably hot.
Okay.
And my old shorts, I didn't like them. So I just treated myself to a pair of shorts that felt better.
Okay.
And broke them in today.
All right.
A nice walk in the shorts and feeling good. Feeling that kind of new shorts good.
New shorts. I tend to prefer shorts that are a little bit more broken in. I like my old ride or dies, right?
Yeah, same. And I have a bunch of at-home shorts, like absolutely cat-pilled up, basketball shorts.
Yeah.
I don't want to wear those in public, though. These are shorts you can wear in public. They go down to the knee.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Love
man,
that.
that's kind kind of rare.
Yeah. Yeah, like you don't want to look like you're like a jockey.
No.
I don't know. I know jockeys don't wear shorts exactly, but it's jockey coated.
You don't want it to be in a capri, and you don't want it to be like too short. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to look like that guy who is on The Notebook. Like, when you had notebooks as a kid, and it would just have like an athletic 70s man.
I never had those. I think that might have been
big, huge, bushy mustache.
No.
Like something in like Gene Wilder or a fit Gene Shalit. Like doing a discus.
Never had any of those.
Yeah. Shout out to everyone listening who's wearing new shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
I'll get started with Michelle, who says, earlier this year, we're doing game questions here. Earlier this year, a really tremendous game came out. The world map was inspired by Link to the Past, and the combat is Robotron/Binding of Isaac style twin stick shooter. It plays like a dream, and there's even no dialogue. Nearly a perfect game. The only problem is that it's called Mini Shoot Adventures. Mini Shoot has an apostrophe at the end of it, and then no S or anything. It's not possessive. It's not anything. They say yes with the dangling apostrophe, which is the dumbest goddamn name I've ever heard. It's the Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo of video game names, eclipsing both Pathfinder Kingmaker and Shadowrun Dragonfall for the crown. What are some of the best game names? What are the best games you've played with the worst names?
I have two really good answers for this, and they're bad in the same way. So I think, Kingmaker and Dragonfall are fine names. It's the colon.
Well, it's the colon, and also the fact that it like both of those are compound words as well. Yes. Pathfinder, King, and Maker. It's 4 words, but as 2.
Yeah, it's something like a Taylor and Spy are going to jump in there.
Yeah.
Mine two are the same. Door Kickers and Crown Takers. Are both good games, I think.
Yeah.
Possibly a future WAF. For either of them, I'm fond of those games. But when I found it's called Door Kickers, it reminds me of the Harmony Korine film Trash Humpers.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like that. If you just have like noun verbers as a thing, it sounds like shit. We're the Crown Takers. What do you do?
What is Crown Takers? I've never heard of that.
It's a iOS. You might like it. It's like a kind of tacticsy iOS game with cartoony graphics.
Okay.
Some like elements of tower defense stuff, but there's also with a twist.
Okay.
You know that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Crown takers. They take crowns.
There we go. This is hard. None are coming to mind, and I feel bad for that. I am looking through my Steam list of games that I've beaten just to see.
Categorize it by visual novel.
Oh, by visual novel.
You'll get some dog shit.
I have all of them. I have all of them in just one beaten category, so that's a little bit hard. I don't know. Steins Gate, like it's literally like the character, the name itself in universe is pulled just because it sounds like anime, nonsense kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's very self-conscious from that character for naming the effect that is put there. I'll tell you this: Outlast. I like the Outlast games. Outlast it has nothing to do.
Anything.
Yeah. It's
one of those that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. No, I had to go.
That's a bad kind of name.
I had to go all the way down to the R's. Yeah, I sequester games that I've beaten into their own little category at the end, so they don't kick around.
No. I have a beating category as well, or a beated category. Category.
Okay. 66 times in the head.
Warren says, another podcast I listened to had Tim Kaine on to talk about his thoughts on the Fallout show. He also talked about his time working on The Outer Worlds and his particular type of colorblindness, which is nearly grayscale. While developing The Outer Worlds, he had the UI team make everything in grayscale and then change just certain values so that anyone with any type of colorblindness could play this game. What games have standout or interesting accessibility options? The Forza games have everything from automatic shifting and assistive braking to adjusting the overall speed at which everything in the world occurs to help with reaction time. What options do you usually set for yourself? I always turn off tapping and QTEs whenever possible, and the few games that have given me the option to turn off tinnitus sounds are very welcome.
Oh man, tinnitus sounds. Hate that.
Yeah. In terms of the best ones, we're living in a great time for this.
Yes.
I think we're both on the record as more options is always better. Mm-hmm. We don't care about, this is the way you're supposed to do it. You're robbing yourself. We don't do that. Mm-hmm. So give me all the options.
Yeah.
So like Celeste is really good. Like has a really good version of these. It's, sounds like the Outer Worlds does as well. Basically just let me adjust the stuff. Mm-hmm. I no longer see the virtue in not doing that.
Yeah. Tell me, I might be making this up. No, I definitely am not, but I can't remember what game this is. There is a game that I believe we played that it was a first-person game, and you could turn on visual indicators for sound.
Yes.
Related, like in relative position to you. So, like, I don't know. You didn't have to rely on the audio mixing or whatever stereo setup you might have, or regardless, people who have hearing difficulties. I thought that was a really good idea, but I cannot remember. I cannot for the life of me remember what game that was.
I don't remember either.
Yeah,
but that's good. I mean, just anything you can think of, put it in. Yeah. I understand. I'm not doing the budget for these games, so I understand why that doesn't happen. Yeah. I just consider it a boon when it does.
Yes.
If you don't like it, you cannot use it. Mm-hmm. Easy. In terms of ones I always use, always subtitles. I do everything with subtitles. I would slip in the projector at a movie theater, $20 so I can have subtitles. I usually adjust the brightness a little bit. Yeah. Past the recommended amount. Because I just don't see that well. And I also turn off tapping. I think that how fast can you tap a button is one of the lowest forms of gameplay. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing when it still shows up.
Yes.
Like, what century are we in? That I just have to tap a button as fast as I can to get through this.
It's still weird that it defaults to that in the Spider-Man games.
It does. And you can turn it off. Like I just always do. Like, but if it sucks that it defaults to it because it's not very evocative. It doesn't feel very much like
exertion.
Yeah, like continuous exertion. It sounds like vibrating. A weird random thing to shout out, the yoga minigame from Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh yeah.
Felt a lot more like exertion as typified by gameplay, like holding kind of awkward thumbstick positions. Mm-hmm. That to me simulates like pulling on something more.
Yeah.
Than just tapping. Tapping doesn't simulate anything.
Nope. For
unless
me,
you're tapping that clit.
High five. Yeah, for me,
Taking 3.
for me, the biggest one is subtitles. I don't know. I also like how granular subtitle options have gotten. Like playing XCOM with its subtitles on a 4K screen. It's subtitles for ants at the bottom of it. I like the subtitle scaling. I like having the option to have the speaker named. Because like, I don't know, it might just be because I'm taking notes, but I want to know the names of people who said stuff. Yeah. And I wish that speaker names were available on captions, but captions are headed in the wrong direction. So yeah, captions are AI assisted bullshit now. Never proofread or anything.
No, AI bad.
Yeah. Next question here. Mike writes, if IO Interactive announced a new Hitman game in the style of the World of Assassination trilogy and appointed you with brainstorming the game's 5 or 6 locations, where would Agent 47 be headed for his next mission? What are your dream Hitman levels?
Comic-Con.
I just about gave an answer. I just about Kyle gassed myself.
Well, see, I'm not a coward. So unlike Jack Black, if you did that, I wouldn't, I care more about my beliefs than I do voicing cartoons. So I would not be a coward, a pathetic coward about it.
My favorite thing that I saw, somebody posted just a really garish meme that said, I never believed in magic until I saw my dog turn into a snake.
Yeah. I gotta get that Bowser money though.
Yeah.
But yeah, Comic-Con.
Comic-Con would be good.
It'd be great. Like, I've always wanted to go backstage in those areas. There'd be like little lounges and things like that. There'd be like a cosplay competition. Agent 47 could win, to get access to somebody.
Yeah.
Comic-Con.
Yeah. I mean, we both forever have been saying State Fair, right?
State Fair. Perfect.
Yeah.
I got one here.
Okay.
Sorry. This is a great question. This is filling with inspiration. Mall of America.
Fuck, man. Oh God. Yeah. Mall of America would be so good.
Yeah. Right. There's it's kind of all of these things. It's a carnival, a Comic-Con, and a Rainforest Cafe.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Astronaut training facility.
Oh, very good.
Or Cape Canaveral.
G's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Space camp. Yeah. And he has to and it's not weird because the assassin is smaller. It's a prequel. It's when he's Agent 11 and he's killing other Agent 11-year-olds.
God, this is really just fun.
Zoo or aquarium.
Yeah.
Like basically anywhere that's not just like a business would be pretty sick. Like those games are great. They have to keep their powder dry on those kind of amusement park style locations.
Yeah.
Because they have to have some things that behave like real places.
Right.
But like a download pack that was just like, here's Agent 47 at vacation spots that aren't just like luxury resorts, that are like fun vacation spots.
Yeah.
Would be really cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, mansions and like European style like mega apartments or whatever are fine
very
and good
cool as well.
Yeah, those like those are there, but I like, and there are whole Hitman games that we haven't played. So like when I say like State Fair, people might say, oh, Hitman Absolution has you going through a street fair, right? And like yes, I know that is true.
Yeah. What if I just envisioned Mall of America Hitman, and one of the story paths, Agent 47 just absolutely flawlessly getting the kill screen on Donkey Kong to like trigger the champ so he can kill Billy Mitchell or something. Like elusive target.
It's a game within a game.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I wish that we just had more of those.
Yeah,
it's like that is one of the only developers in the world I would paralyze if I could into just doing this. Just give me another Hitman every like year and a half, and I would buy every single one of them full price, and we'd cover each one for the show. Like,
yeah, no, I agree. You're preaching to the choir here.
Some of God's perfect video games, right there.
Yeah.
Nicholas says, I'm a big fighting game player, and it's always fun to hear you either acknowledge Gary's history with the genre or take a jab at the absurdity of the minutia of it. Aside from optimizing the fun out of an experience, what property do you think would elicit the response, all right, I'll give that a shot, either for the absurdity or genuine interest? So like if a new fighting game came out.
Okay.
Like what theming or kind of oddness might get back into
might get me into
games.
it. So like at the end of the day, it's still a fighting game. So it is hard for me to say like, oh yes, this would definitely get me into it, because like, I don't know, Marvel versus Capcom is cool. I recognize those characters, but I don't know. It's I'll play a few rounds of it, right?
Yeah.
So
that kind of got me back into it when I was out for a little bit.
Yeah.
And played it just to see what the character. And I played the most recent Smash Brothers because of the big character roster. Like I like looking at the design that goes into designing fighting game characters and how they can feel different and express personality through moves and stuff. I'm very interested in that.
I think I bought Smash Brothers Ultimate specifically because I wanted to see how they did Simon Belmont.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that kind of stuff's super cool. I like doing that. I don't know what would get me into like getting into it, like playing online matches or playing it regularly. Fighting games have become more complicated than when I was good at them. Like my level of complexity peaks at Marvel versus Capcom 2.
Yeah.
Basically. And after that, I'm not really competitive because I don't know how to do, the frame counters and stuff.
Yeah. I'll give an answer that's like a throwaway because I would play it to see how the jokes work. What I would like to see is like Fox like Sunday night animation block fighters. So getting Simpsons and King of the Hill and
Family Guy, American Dad.
Yeah, Family Guy,
Bob's
American
Burgers.
Dad, Bob's Burgers. Like get that in there. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see how Tina Belcher gets in there and does that.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see. Some of that stuff comes through in like Multiversus or these like Omni things. Like I was going to say like Adventure Time, but then those characters are in a thing that I don't play.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It might just be the arc of me becoming less competitive as I played. Like I used to feel a lot more joy out of beating a friend at something, and now I really kind of don't.
Yeah.
So you can see it on display during Duck Stream where I just basically want to watch. Like whenever it gets to that, I'm just going to watch Nick and Will.
Yeah.
And sometimes Gwen like play video games against each other, but all I literally want to do is watch, and I'm having a great time like doing that. I don't know, something about it I don't like.
Yeah. I am going to get that collection of Marvel fighting games when it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah, those are fun. Those are all like pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like I love Capcom's Marvel work. Super good.
Yeah. Let's see here. The Beard Phantom writes, I'd love to hear a discussion about puzzles in games that are fully intended to be solved by a community instead of an individual. Some recent examples would be the super obscure endgame puzzles in Animal Well and Tunic. I feel conflicted about these, and I'll admit that I sound a tad bitter. These puzzles almost always end up feeling like a super cool treasure hunt or escape room that I didn't know was happening until it was already over, and I'm reading about how much fun everyone had solving it in a Kotaku article. And it kind of continues in that vein. But yeah, like these big collaborative puzzles that end up being solved way before you ever get to them.
Yeah. Can I ruin your day just a little bit?
Yes.
And everybody listening by extension, this is a real Pontypool kind of situation. I saw a YouTube thumbnail that referred to this genre as Metroidbrania.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. I've seen that. Yeah.
Doesn't that make you want to throw yourself off a cliff?
Yeah, Metroidbrania is terrible.
Yeah. Go to hell. I hate that phrase.
No.
Go directly to hell.
No, it's got nothing to do with Metroid. Animal Well's cool, but
it's also just like, it has like big rutabaga vibes to me. Like we have to set this this is a Metroidvania but Genius edition. Mind War Genius facts.
Cortex Command.
The Cortex Command is logged on to play Tunic. Not that those puzzles are bad easy, or you don't have to be smart or easy. It's just like, I don't know. It feels like there should be some kind of separate descriptor that doesn't sound so wanky.
Yeah.
These things for me, I don't have a strong opinion because they're kind of not for me. I don't, that level of puzzling is not my favorite thing. I don't really participate in it. And I never feel robbed by it. When I go into one of these, I almost always know like whatever the grand meta puzzle is. And I mean, specifically in a video game, like a lot of escape rooms will have a grand meta puzzle and I'll be interested in that. you know. But whenever I find out in like a video game, like, oh, you know, there was a weird kind of glyph every third room during the Metroidvania, and if you take all of those and you put them together, they're a QR code, which you then scan, which goes to a website, which tells you the button prompts you can use in front of the idol to finally get into the last realm. I'm just not doing it.
The second that I hear about a second or third location, I am out.
Yeah.
I go to sleep. Yeah.
It does not match how I play video games.
Yeah.
You know, so I think I understand the Beard Phantom's point that like it sucks. Like you go on, you know, you think you're going to start working on this thing, and then Kotaku is just like, players finally solved the big secret, you know, of Thinky's House of you know, Oblongatas, and that can feel bad.
Yes.
You know, it's just you know, it's not that I don't care about it because it doesn't affect me, but it doesn't affect me, so I don't have that much of an opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to know a game that does something really interesting with this?
What's that?
It is an indie horror game called Mirror Layers, which I should have thought of in the terrible titles because that is an awful name.
That is a bad title.
Yeah, that's rural juror kind of stuff. But it's interesting because, like, on the face of it, it looks like a PT alike. Like you're going through an apartment building and weird space stuff is happening. There are like enemies who can come after you as well. But like the hook on it is that there is an in-game social network. And it's a little bit like a Dark Souls hints kind of thing, where like you log on to this message board and like individual people can like write stuff about, you know, like how to get hints and how to solve the puzzles and stuff that are there. And at least when I played it, everybody was writing in character.
Okay.
You know, like it was small enough that it wasn't just like, okay, you need to blow out the third candle from the left. It was, you know, it was a space that was well tended by people who were engaging in good faith. Yeah.
Kind of the ideal version of that.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why I don't seek that in video games is because I do like it in other stuff. You know, I like it in real life, like immersive experiences, like in escape rooms and shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's harder. It's easier to get people who to non-optimize it when they're not in a gamer mindset. You know? Yeah. Do you want to move on to other types of questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
20-minute mark. Moving on to life questions. Joel says, "Hi there, long-time listener, medium-time patron, first-time questioner. Thank you. You two were able to transition to full-time podcasting, and both of you have mentioned having bad jobs in the past, so you're living the dream, arguably. But I was wondering if there were any things you missed from your previous working lives, whether things related to certain specifics of the job, or to working a day job in general, or those things indirectly related to the job. For example, the break room, some aspect of the commute." I got one.
Okay.
I never feel like I have a day off.
Yep.
I haven't felt like I had a day off in, you know, the whole time we've been here. Or, you know, been doing this. There is always something I can be doing. And that sounds like it's an illusion, but it's really not. With that mindset, I just kind of stay caught up. If I were to relax that mindset, I would get behind.
Yeah.
So like from time to time, not feeling well, and a blue moon, I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to do very much work today.
Yes.
But it's not none. It means like, oh, okay, we're going to talk about this movie for Unfilmable, so I'm going to watch that. That's the only thing I'm going to do. And that's easy work.
Yeah.
It's watching a movie, but it is paying attention, and it is activating like my critical brain for speaking about it later. Same thing with missing out on all national holidays.
Yes.
And stuff like, if, you know, like Liv, my wife will say, you know, this is awesome. You know, 3-day weekend. It's 4th of July. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You know, cause I get to hang out with my wife a little bit longer, but I'm not taking July 4th off.
Nope.
You know, I'm going to do some work. You know, I'm going to keep on top of these games. I'm going to work on notes. I'm going to do all of that stuff. I'm going to, you know, check in on the Slack. I'm going to answer Patreon comments. So I no longer feel like I have a day off in exchange for having a job I like and more days that are lighter duty, you know, than they necessarily were when I was just working 40 hours a week, 9 to 5.
Both of us got out of the rat race before. I feel like such a dork for saying that, but I can't think of another way to do it. Both of us left traditional jobs before the pandemic. So what you are saying, I believe, would be actually really applicable to a lot of people, not just to us, but I agree. I'm the person who makes the schedule, you know, just generally. And I will schedule us like July 4th came out on Thursday, and it's like, well, I don't have a plan that day, but I also don't want to record on the holiday. That could be time to catch up or whatever. But like,
There'll also be fireworks and shit going off.
Yeah. So like, you know, but like after that weekend was done, where I'd spent a bunch of time with my family, you know, like 2 or 3 days, pretty much just knocked out by otherwise engagements. And it's like, oh my God, I'm so behind on work. And it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't line up. It's like, well, no, got to rely on the weekend to get work done. Well, fuck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No time off goes unpunished. So like the flip side to making your own schedule is that like we can take time off. Cole and I are both reasonable, and we, you know, if something happens, or with Gwen, right? Like Gwen's going to go on tour, or if like one of us needs time off for something in real life, like we can obviously make it work, and we do, and that's awesome. But anything you didn't do still just has to be done.
Yeah.
Either before or after, with like, I think the one exception when I tagged in a couple of guest hosts when I had COVID, because that was something we couldn't plan around very much. It happened, you know, very quickly. But that's rare.
Yeah.
That's the one time I think that's happened. We've had a couple other, like Guppy's had a guest host once or twice for that, but it's not something we do.
Yeah.
You know, so generally the stuff still has to get done.
Yes.
So you're just moving it.
I'll tell you this. I miss having coworkers that I see regularly.
Oh, fuck me, I guess.
No,
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Jesus.
No, I like.
I'll call Gwen. I'll let her know.
No, I like you and I like Gwen. I like the people. I wouldn't be doing the shows with you all if I didn't like you. So it's no, but like, you know, going into an office generally sucked, but, you know, the marketing job that I worked at, like my one big adult job, or, you know, when I worked at the radio station, there were nice people, and it was very fun to work with them and solve creative or logistical problems. There was a sense of, you know, commiseration around stuff. And like, they were just different enough from me in interests and in, you know, just kind of like the way they live their lives, that it felt, you know, I don't know, somehow enriching to be, you know, or exposed to people who did not live like I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so I am a person who has next to no social drive. And not necessarily going out or whatever, but like I got very friendly with a lot of people that I used to work with, and not seeing them, not being in a place where I can kind of have that kind of camaraderie there in a structured way, you know, has been a little bit of a bummer. Obviously I wouldn't trade what I have now to go back to that. That is not worth everything, but it is something that I do look back and miss. Yeah, work buddies
are different. Like you and I are actual friends, but then you have work buddies.
Yes.
And like I kind of miss work buddies from time to time as an idea. Yeah, and I get that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question.
I get so self-conscious about that stuff because it's like, oh man, it's not woe is us. Nobody needs to throw us a parade.
Yeah,
please.
No. It's a balancing act. Like it's a job.
Yeah,
we work hard. Like we're very lucky to have the job, but we do a lot of stuff. People like it. Like I think it's okay to acknowledge that there are challenges to it.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
I understand that mindset too, though. Like, like, oh, if I complain about this, someone's going to take it away. You know, like that's like your parent, like who's just like, oh, I guess you don't want this toy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not a toy. It's like we just said, we work every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's a cool kind of work that we really like, but it is, you know, it's tiring the same way. Like I get tired. I get, you know, don't want to play video game. You know.
Yeah. I'll finish a long recording session and just be exhausted from being on and engaged the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not sandblasting. It's just like activating a part of your brain.
Yeah.
You know. No.
Phil writes, "Hi, Gary and Cole. I'm a neurologist with 2 young kids, and I love that I can explore video games with you guys that I do not have time to play myself. Here's my question. When you work in medicine long enough, you can sometimes tell when someone else has worked in the medical field by the ease with which they use a large variety of medical terms. I feel like both of you, Cole in particular, pretty easily drop into medical lingo. Do either of you have a background in medicine, biology, or related fields? Also, while I'm on the medical kick, I love how open and frank you both are about your physical and mental health challenges. They're clearly important issues in your lives, but nothing to be ashamed of. I think that's great. Stigma helps no one. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. I do not have a medical background beyond, you know, being like I took anatomy in high school and stuff. It's just a general interest. The human body is a miraculous nightmare factory. That combined with having family members who are not necessarily just sick family members and stuff. You're just around and you learn a lot. Just general curiosity about it. That combined with my fondness for specific language, I guess.
Yeah. You pick it up through like looking up stuff about yourself.
Yes.
And then listening to doctors and being curious about things because you have them.
Yes.
Like everyone has problems. I think like the second bit of this informs the first bit a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I also have no medical actual background, but I go to doctors and stuff happens to me.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about what's happening in this big black box that I call a body.
Yeah.
I want to know what that is. So, and yeah, it's definitely stigma helps no one. Like it's stupid to pretend that you don't have health stuff, mental or physical. Like, of course you do. Everybody does. It's to me, sometimes I think rejecting that kind of thing or having a stigma around it is kind of gift horse in the mouthing advancements in humanity.
Yeah.
In a way, like humanity has done a whole bunch of horrible stuff. It's, killing the environment, doing all these things, but we also figured out how to treat people who are sick in pretty miraculous ways. And if I'm going to take the bad, I'm going to take the good.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to deal with, traffic congestion, I am going to use roads. If I'm going to deal with, horrible medical bills, I am going to try to get the help. Why not actually benefit from the miles of people before me who did this work?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in some ways like, it sucks that all the money stuff that's wrapped into it fucking sucks. But in a kind of pure way, if you take that out of it, it's actually very communal and kind of beautiful. Not to Radiolab it, but like, it's a bunch of people working together to make the whole better.
Yes.
Absolutely. Like that.
Yeah.
Moving on to media questions. Dylan says, "Hi guys. A few times in dispatches, you mentioned books that you're reading. I'd love to hear more. Gary, how'd you like Blood Meridian? It's a favorite for me for its exoriation of the myth of American Manifest Destiny, not to mention McCarthy's style of writing. I have some friends who think McCarthy celebrates hypermasculinity, but I've always felt that his books like Blood Meridian and Sutri deeply deconstruct the horror, and the deconstruction comes with such men. Cool. I re-listened to the 2023 Dispatch where you said you went through a Hungarian literature phase. What other Eastern European books or Hungarian literature do you recommend? I'm trying to get more into that geography of books, starting with Santiago, mentioned earlier Tango, right? Mentioned earlier this spring. I have no issues calling it a top 5 book I've ever read. I love those kinds of books where the content revolves around the absolute full experience of ostensibly mundane occurrences.
Yeah. I'll let you go first.
No, I'm still reading Blood Meridian. I like it. It's just intense.
It's a tangle.
It's a tangle, and it's a lot of dourness at once, which like I like that, but I can't like chug it.
Yeah.
I'm not like bringing it to the beach and like, just pounding a third of Blood Meridian in a day. So I'm reading that. I am enjoying it. And then I'm reading, The Black Company, right now, which is by a guy. Cannot remember right now. I'm going to look it up. It is a classic fantasy, like low fantasy series. Glenn Cook.
Okay.
Pretty sick. This was recommended to me by the Matt Colville, who is the dungeon master I like on YouTube, and was saying, I've stolen ideas from this a lot. This is really good. And the next thing I want to run, I want to have like a low fantasy grit to it. So I'm reading that for inspiration, and so far it's great.
Yeah. For my side of this, I talked about that Eastern European jag because I read Set in Tango and immediately turned around and read, The Notebook, The Proof, and The Third Lie by Agatha Christoph.
3 books and one's a romantic.
Every time I bring up that trilogy, it's you buy it. It's not available digitally, unfortunately, but you buy it and it's all 3 books in one now in the American translation. But it's written by women who grew up in Hungary on the border and then moved to France. Is what it is. And then Set in Tango is Austrian. So I read both of those back to back and started looking for other stuff too. That was also kind of an era when I started working reading Strugatsky Brothers kind of stuff. The Doomed City is actually really neat in that. Just like it's got a weird premise, but it's just like a city of a city full of like historical figures that has become isolated from the world by some kind of by a force that is unnamed. That's really all I want to go into on that. But that is good. Strigosky Brothers is incredibly readable for that. Another book by Lazaro Krasnorkai. I don't know. It's a very difficult name, but the guy who wrote Set in Tango is called War and War. About a guy from Austria who moves to New York and is trying to fit in. Is also very good. It is very much like being inside somebody else's head in a very discomforting way. So, yeah. Oh. Yep. Oh, also, nice. I mean, this is Eastern European, but I got a hold of the fan translation of The Sacred and Terrible Air, the prequel book to, Disco Elysium.
Disco Elysium.
Yeah. And that is very good as well.
I have that, and I want to get it printed. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to read that on a Kindle or anything.
But I think I only sent you the EPUB. So
no, it's true. But you can have those things printed.
Okay.
Like, like even if it's just at like a Kinko's. I would like to. I need a paper version of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to. I don't really like reading on Kindle very much. I like audiobooks and I like book books, but for some reason Kindle, I'm out of the habit. Definitely on my list.
Yeah. Let's see. Andy K250 writes, have y'all had a chance to watch Scavenger's Reign yet? Especially now that it's on Netflix. With the caveat, of course, that most recommendations are poison, I feel like this disarmingly mellow biohorror animated masterpiece is pretty up both of your alleys. Also, just wanted to mention that my wife and I picked up Gideon the Ninth based on y'all's recommendations on Quackstack. We haven't started it yet, but hopefully soon. I hope you enjoy it. Scavenger's Reign, saw a bunch of people praising it. The art looks neat. It's just a matter, like anything else, of don't have room in my life for new shit.
Yeah, this is good. This is an ancient kind of thing, so this is something I should 100% be over. Everybody losing their mind over a Netflix thing has forever been poisoned to me
by Orange is the New Black.
By by Stranger Things.
Oh shit, yeah.
And the cycle of anything that is a solid B being called world changing on Netflix. And I understand that doesn't mean everything is mid that they put out, but it means that seeing scuttlebutt about a thing doesn't move my needle.
Yeah.
At all. And I'm also not wildly enthusiastic about adult animation or like serious animation.
Yeah.
Like it's something that I like the existence of, but sometimes I just feel like, why is this animated? I don't have the same relation to animation that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not a plus for me inherently. Like there are animated programs I like quite a bit.
Yeah.
There are things I would like just as much if they were animated, but I typically don't like, I'm not like drawn to animation. Like unless it has a baby on a girder on it.
Okay. Yeah.
And from what I can understand, this has no babies and no girders.
Has a lot of girders.
And it does look pretty girder rich. So yeah, I haven't watched it. I'm don't doubt that I would like it perhaps at some point.
Yeah. The art style is beautiful. It's like a Mobius kind of looking thing, which is neat. I'll be honest. I kind of filed it away in the Samurai Jack kind of valley, just in terms of a thing that people really, really fucking love. That seems, again, it is adult and serious. Yeah.
That's also, so that's a thing too, where sometimes when I have taken the chance on these things, I just don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand what is supposed to be good about Samurai Jack.
Right.
When that had its big moment, I tried it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is boring. I don't like this. I don't, this seems bad to me. I don't understand. Yeah. And it's just kind of enough recommendations, and not from any individual, not calling out Andy K250 about this, but enough like cultural recommendations for animated things have just fallen flat for me.
Yeah.
As to make me feel like, Yeah. Eric says, Blue Velvet reminded me of some of the stories my dad used to tell me about his childhood, since he grew up in the 60s. They always seemed so idyllic and like something from Leave It to Beaver, but occasionally he would mention something horrific. Once he told me that when him and his friends were playing in the street, one of them was hit by a car, dragged underneath, and ground into road before the driver noticed. I assume that's ground into the road.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Anywho, the Godzilla soundtrack from the 1998 Roland Emmerich movie was the first CD I ever owned, which I love more than it deserves, largely due to nostalgia. What were your first albums, and were they just as cringy? There's a little bit of an A-B disconnect in that question, but I'll allow it.
Yeah, that's why it's in the media.
Yeah, it is the media. I do love videos about kids being ground into the road.
I think first albums. I remember the first album that I was like, "Oh my gosh, you need to get this for me," from my parents. Was the Tommy Boy soundtrack. In particular because it had "It's the End of the World as We Know It" on there, because that features in a scene in that movie. Is pretty good, but also it had like little skits from the movie, like literally just audio from the movie interspersed between them. So it was just a way to listen to those bits. Yeah,
nice. My first album was Automatic for the People. Beautiful green tinted plastic cassette, which I do not consider cringy.
No, not at all.
I eventually got some cringy stuff. Most of the cringy stuff I got, though, is not objectively cringy. It's me trying to fit in. Like all of my friends being into like heavier grunge than I was into, or metal.
Yeah.
So I owned like Metallica records, and I had like the Alice in Chains record and stuff. And I find, and like, no disrespect, it is not my tempo. Like, I find Alice in Chains unlistenable.
Yeah.
I cannot with that. But at the time I was like, oh, all my friends like Soundgarden, so I should like Soundgarden.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that makes me cringe, but it wasn't because of objective quality. It's because I was trying to force myself into a peer hole, basically. Yeah. If that makes sense. In terms of actually cringy stuff that I liked, I was Toad That Sprocket fan to a degree that one should not be. In the 90s, I had 2 Toad That Sprocket albums and liked them both, not just the singles, album tracks as well.
Cool.
So
no, I mean, that was me with Fastball, right?
Yeah. I think Fastball is arguably better. Yeah. Sorry, I hit my mic just there.
No, that's okay.
Thinking about Fastball gets me all wired up.
all worked up.
There's also the fun thing where something seems cringy and then you kind of revisit. Like, I was also into 10,000 Maniacs at the time.
Yeah.
And then had a period of being embarrassed about that. But now that I'm like, this actually kind of slaps.
Yeah. No,
In My Tribe is a good album. These are good. My Mother the War is a really good song.
Yep.
They're good. It's actually good.
Yeah.
So.
Do we want to move on to show questions?
Let's do some show questions.
Yeah. Cinder Elf says, in general, what do you envision your listeners to be doing while listening to your episodes? I understand that the real answer would be a huge variety of different things, but what would the totemic image of a Duckfeed listener be doing? I'll tell you how I'm listening I'll tell you how I'm listening in the comments for this episode, and I encourage others to do the same, possibly on the YouTube upload to boost the algorithm. Oh, Cinder Elf, thank you.
Yeah, it might boost the algorithm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Algorithm.
I do not think about the listener while I'm recording.
I think about it in terms of generally like, oh, this would be a bad experience, or like it's always in your mind that you're doing something for consumption.
Yes.
I don't like picture somebody doing dishes or anything.
Yeah.
Or taking a walk or working a job. I assume, based anecdotally, I assume those are the main things. Mm-hmm. So I guess if I had to picture, that's what I'd picture, but it's not something I actively do.
Yeah. Just the thing that people tell us most about is, helping them through a boring job.
Yeah. The best thing to hear in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. We hate boring jobs. Mm-hmm. We work boring jobs. It fucking sucks that it happens.
Yes. What did they do to us?
We like to. Yeah. What did they do to us? If we can make that easier, that's great.
Good.
Yeah. Doug says, curious about how you guys decide which movies to tackle on Unfilmable. Also, any thoughts on expanding the coverage to look at things that might be outside the usual remit of the show? Things like classic Universal monsters or silent films, or perhaps something like horror comedies or horror for kids like Coraline. Horror is a very big genre, and I wasn't sure if there's any interest in exploring some of those other facets of it.
We've stretched the format.
Yeah. we've done some of that. We did Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah.
We've done like horror comedy stuff at least, and we've done thrillers, which I consider stretching the format.
Yeah.
In terms of horror comedies or horror for kids, other than Coraline, there aren't very many horror movies for kids I like.
Yeah.
There's a thing that happens sometimes I find with, and I'm not accusing Doug of this, but some of my friends with kids will do this, where like something will come for kids and they will round it up in their grading because it had something for them. And it's kind of where you get people being like, actually, everyone should watch Bluey every day. Like it doesn't matter whether you have a kid. And what they're doing is they're surprised to find something to like about it and surprised by the general quality of it. But it's still okay to be like, I'm not interested in subject matter about an Australian dog family. Like I'm an adult. I like things that are about different things.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they have something they can both watch. Like that's sick. But it doesn't mean that like necessarily people who are not into children's media generally will dig it.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I don't like Universal monster movies very much. I went through a phase when I was first getting into horror movies where I was like, these are foundational, and did a Google and stuff. And there are like really striking images in a lot of them that are pretty cool. But they're just not, it's too elemental for me. Like if the basics are too known, and like what I'd be evaluating is like just kind of soundtrack and atmosphere for things. Yeah. And that's a little bit hard if that's all that's going on to talk about. For me, that's where I don't know where you're at on that, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
Pretty much like it is, something gets old enough and suddenly you are talking about the time period more than you're talking about the work itself.
Yeah.
So like I've thought about Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, right?
Yeah. Which for the record, I like. Yes. Like I like that. It'd be hard to talk about though.
Very hard because it's all visual. Like everything interesting that did was in the composition, right?
Yes.
In composition and set. And getting back that far, yeah, I don't know. I think it would. I want to dip back into like 60s and 70s horror a little bit. So at some point. I would be interested there, but you get into silent stuff, and what I don't want to be is David Cross in that one skit.
Yeah, explaining the comics to the blind.
Yeah,
Calvin's in hell, and it's weird. It's kind of scary, but it's also, God, I wish you could see it. It's an audio medium. Yeah. Which kind of does suggest things like that. I also I don't like silent films generally. Yeah. Like there's some I like, but generally I don't like that. Like that, it activates my "this is too slow" cues. Yeah, quite a bit. I will watch silent short films from time to time, but at feature length it gets rough. In terms of old stuff, the one thing I've thought about is Todd Browning's Freaks as a thing to bring, which is a weird movie and does not feel like as old a movie as it is in a lot of ways because it was pre-code lawlessness. There are ethical things to think about with that as well. But that's the closest I've come.
The ending of that fucks me up.
Yeah. Same. And then the other, in terms of like horror comedy stuff, I feel like we basically already do that. Yeah. Like we did Cabin in the Woods.
We did Return of the Living Dead. I consider that to be a horror comedy.
Yeah, that's 100% a horror comedy. I think The Video Dead is attempting to be a horror comedy.
Yeah.
It's more outsider art than that. But yeah. And then you get into stuff like that goes too far into the comedy section that gets hard to talk about, like Ghostbusters or something.
Yeah.
Like I love Ghostbusters. I love Ghostbusters too. There's just not enough horror there.
Yeah.
For it to even that just feels like a young adult's adventure movie to me. And it's a great movie, but it doesn't. I don't think that fits the remit quite enough.
Yeah. Like I vacillate on any given day, like whether or not the Cornetto trilogy, any of those fit the remit, right? Like those are just really good comedies to me.
Yeah, like near perfect comedies, each of which borrows a little bit from a different genre,
right?
But just a tad, just a flavor drip. And then in terms of how we decide, I think we just come with things.
Yeah.
When we know it's our turn, we come with a couple choices. A lot of times I will think of my choices based on what we've been doing a lot lately.
Same.
So, or if I have like an intrusive thought, like I have to get something out of my head,
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think about it in terms of just programming. Are we on a jag where we're really enjoying a kind of thing? Like I think this year we've been on elevated horror for a while. To certain degrees, and that's fine.
Which is why I took us out elevated horror.
Yeah,
like for our pick for next month, I was like, let's scunge this up a little bit.
Yeah,
not video dead scudge it, but let's downshift our classiness.
Yes,
a little bit.
Yeah. But like generally, like for what enters the pool, it is either stuff that we really like already, feel like there's something to talk about, or are very curious to watch.
Yeah. Yep. Which are also fun episodes too. Like I like doing stuff that we don't know whether it's going to be good. That's just fun.
Hi there, Gary and Cole. For the first time in my life, I have developed a little community surrounding my output of individuals that I do not know. So a community of individuals they do not know. This being my first time dealing with community moderation and parasocial interactions. Do you have any tips or observations on how best to handle these early stages of community building as folks with one of the best communities of individuals out there? And not simply because I am there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That was really hard and took a long time.
Yes.
Out of things that we have done for the show, if I think about all of the ongoing processes, I think that is probably the thing that, and I'll call myself to this. It is a team effort and everything, but like the thing I have made the most mistakes with, in terms of like us not really knowing what to do, us not having a guide for it and trying things that feel right and having them not be right.
Yeah.
Typically our guts are really good. When we make business decisions based on our guts, they work out.
Yes.
Pretty well, like with pretty good consistency. This was something that we did not expect necessarily to do. When we started the Slack, the idea was just, this will just be like a fun little bonus thing for people. A lot of people are doing it.
Yeah.
I don't think that either of us were really considering the moderation piece in terms of tactics or what kind of workload it would be.
Right.
Which was a mistake. So the fact that you're thinking about it now is great.
Yes.
You were a step ahead of where we were.
And also we started the Slack in 2014. Like Discord wasn't really a thing. Like maybe there were IRC communities, but possibly not for like broadly. Everything before this would have been like would have been a forum.
Yes.
Kind of up to that point. Yeah.
And there are definitely some elements of platform choice that made this harder, but there's also just things that were mistakes. When we started thinking about like moderation and we're like, we'll have community moderators, which like some of our community moderators were great. Some of them were less good than great. But we didn't have like a vetting process for them. And I didn't understand how that worked exactly. Because I knew it was like, we couldn't afford to pay moderation after that. So it was volunteer basis. Now I feel different. Now I feel like if you can't, pay a moderator, you should just do it yourself, basically. But at the time I didn't really understand that. So I didn't really understand the level of investment that would come from that. There are just a lot of things to learn, in that scenario. So it took a long time to get there. In terms of advice, I would say be transparent about stuff. I would also say the one thing I wish I had done differently, and this is something I talked to Jeremy Greer, who does as a community as well for his shows, is I wish I was tougher on stuff. Like you could take early on, I got very wrapped around the axle on what was just in terms of stuff. So that encouraged some perpetual line steppers that we had, who I think were taking advantage of the fact that like I was trying really hard to make things seem fair.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd be like, I know this person fucking sucks. They make everybody miserable. They're making me miserable. They haven't quite broken a rule. I'm trapped. No, I wasn't. I should have just booted their ass.
Yeah.
And that was the lesson. Being a little bit of like, hey, fucking vibes are off.
That's the huge thing. Like, be willing to moderate based on vibes and make that clear. Right.
Yep. And it doesn't mean it has to be one strike you're out. You can still have edge cases.
And
where you can like put somebody on your like, I'm going to watch this person. This person's maybe a problem child.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing where like platform choice has kind of fucked us a little bit. Is Slack is made for workspaces. It's not made for communities. So there's no way to like do a timeout or a channel timeout or
you can't
any of
mute
that
an
kind
individual
of stuff.
poster.
Right.
Which would be life-changing in this scenario. Because one of the things also to remember is that like, we have a great group. This is not me criticizing our people, but not everybody gets along with everybody.
That's the thing too.
Some people, some people are not doing anything technically wrong. Just another user will find them annoying. And like finding that line between, it is okay to be annoyed by people.
Yeah.
Not every conversation has to be for you. If the person who annoys you is talking, it's okay for you to set that one out.
Yeah.
That's good and appropriate.
Yeah.
That's something that took a long time to hammer in.
I will also cop to a certain amount of, I don't know what to say. So like, in Parks and Rec, when it's like a throwaway gag, it's a community meeting and somebody says, I found this sandwich on the ground in so-and-so park. And I ate it. And my complaint is it didn't have any mayo on it.
Yes.
Right. So that particular thing, A, why were you eating sandwiches off of the ground? And B, why is it my problem that it didn't have the condiments on it that you liked?
Yeah.
When it started becoming, people holding us accountable for somebody else in our space annoying them, then it became like, like people leaving because of, or just like, depatronizing because of the community and stuff. And it's like, that's not the product though. And it's like, and that is a shitty
That's a continuous.
Attitude. Yeah.
No, I mean, but it's a continuous frustration, right?
Yes.
Like we didn't sign up to make us Slack.
No.
That wasn't what we did. This was always an after effect. I'm glad that it's happened. Like, genuine, real friendships have formed through that. People started their own podcast from it, that some of which are doing really well.
Yep.
And everything. I have friends who I met through the Slack. That's great. Yeah. Like all of that stuff is really cool. We just did it on accident.
Yep.
And that's where that you ate a sandwich on the ground feeling comes from. This was meant to just be, a place to hang out and talk.
Yes.
The other thing you have to remember is that everybody experiences kind of parasociality and online socializing differently, where people just have shitty days and stuff, and the actual answer to this, like if I could actually just beam something into the head of everyone doing one of these things, would just be chill out. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
Like if you're mad that like, somebody walked over your point, or you're mad because people have been talking about something all day and you're not interested in it, or you're mad because you didn't like their tone, the way they said something, like they talked shit about a game and it made you feel bad. Where are you? Like, what do you think the nature of this is?
Yeah.
You're on an online forum for a podcast with a bunch of people who you don't really know and are not, like, some of which are friends, but the stakes aren't that high.
Yeah.
Like the turn the other cheek factor is really wanting a lot of times when those emotions get up.
Yeah.
It would be a thing I think about a lot.
Yeah. And that's true even if you're in this and running it, right?
Yes.
Like
100%. I am also influenced by my emotions and stuff like that too. Like we're all just people. Yeah. And I also need to remember, like, what is this? What is actually the nature of this thing?
Yeah. If the rule is everybody be cool,
yes.
It's just like, okay, I contribute to that too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not above any of this shit. Like I've been shitty on the Slack before. Like I'm not trying to, I just have a bad day. I'm talking to people who are my friends and something rubs me the wrong way and you have an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
I wish I just had a little like alarm that go off in my ear when that was happening.
Yeah.
Just like ding, 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 like chill out.
Please.
This ain't that serious.
Yeah.
And
just
be
okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, be aware of space taking as well. If it grows, like this wasn't a big problem for us early on, but it's a thing now where some people will choose to take up a disproportionate amount of space.
Yeah.
And I don't know the solution for that. All I do is try to remind people like, hey, new people are here, try to make room for them.
Yes.
But there are, I call it holding court. There are some folk who will join your community will have a propensity for holding court. And try to keep an eye on that and do what you can to discourage or disrupt that if it becomes a a problem.
Yeah.
To me, there's a big difference between like healthy and mutual conversation and somebody basically turning, a Slack or a community space into their Substack.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Mm-hmm. Also, be pretty clear about who the community is for. Which is, very specifically like, okay, is that community there for people to interact with you specifically?
Yeah.
Is that the draw for like, if I go here, I might get to talk to, the person who makes these things that I really enjoy? Or is that community primarily for people who like the things you're making to talk to each other about the stuff you're making and then also find other commonalities and making spaces for that? I think establishing that very early on, this is kind of a cousin to setting boundaries, right? Establishing that pretty early on, I think is going to help. The less ambiguity that you have around that, the more you're going to benefit. Because people's expectation of access is going to, it's going to create feelings.
And that's something I've done a horrible fucking job at. Yeah. Because I like posting on the Slack. Mm-hmm. So even though our original intent might have been this is a place for people to talk to each other, and we're not necessarily in there that often, I am in there with some frequency, and it confuses that.
Yeah.
So again, something I would do different. Not that I dislike talking to people on the Slack, but I would be more intentional.
Yeah.
About that. Like generally, like you're doing great by just thinking about it.
Yeah.
At all. You're doing better than we did just even by trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It just, letting something grow unattended is, when you go and look at it, you might not like what you find.
Exactly. You're cultivating something in the fridge.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll be penicillin and maybe it will be penicillin.
Maybe it'll kill us all.
Yeah. Let's actually move on to topics that we were on that one for a while. That was almost like a topic on itself.
Almost like a topic. Do we want to do like a smattering of lightning round?
Yeah, lightning round. Yes. Yeah. Of course. I forgot about lightning round.
Yeah. Let's see. I will get started here with Francisco, who says, Baby Hitler has traveled forth in time to kill you. You have 10 minutes to prepare before he enters the room and initiates battle. What do you do?
Lock the door?
I mean, what I'm doing anyway, because he's a fucking baby.
He is a baby. Yeah. I saw a funny tweet where it's just like, I've gone back in time to kill Hitler, but he doesn't have the mustache. Which one is it? And I realized I always assumed in a going back in time to kill Hitler situation, I would just know which one. And it was because he was dressed like the Kaiser from when the octuplets get taken by Larry Kidkill in The Simpsons, But no, he might just look like a regular German baby and then I'd be fucked.
I always picture in this scenario, I picture it being a nursery. So there would be name tags on it, you know, or like, you go back and like, oh, this is the Hitler's house.
Yeah. Go find his bassinet. Tom says, what is your favorite sea creature?
I like the pistol shrimp.
Pistol shrimps are pretty cool.
Pistol shrimp's cool. The cavitation in their the cavitation that happens when they make that sound, it's super loud, but it very briefly gets hotter than the surface of the sun.
Yeah. The animals with superpowers are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to say an octopus.
Yeah, that's good.
Big reason why I don't eat cephalopods because I've watched an octopus play a game, and I'm like, I do that. I can't eat a cephalopod.
I can't eat something that frolics, bro.
Not even just frolics, like intense games of hide and seek with like changing rules and shit. I'm like, that's too smart to eat. Don't eat that.
Yeah. Ryan writes, just a comment. My daughter's name is Mallory, and I tell people and my ex-wife it's cause of family ties. But actually, it's from the Gary Newman song, Metal. My Mallory heart is sure to fail. And found out that Mallory was a British battery brand. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, my Mallory heart. Okay.
I would own it before I'd own family ties. Mm-hmm. Even just no, it's a battery.
Yeah.
It was a popular British battery.
It was a popular British battery. Yeah. And also it's a name, right?
But that is very funny.
It's not, it's not made up. There are people who called Mallory in the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Robert says, Hey guys, as fellow Tim and Eric heads, do you have any thoughts on their frequent collaborator, visuals editor, DJ Doug Pound? His YouTube series, Pound House, is one of my favorite things this year, and we just saw him perform live a couple of weeks ago. I laughed so hard that I cried. Stay cool this summer, boys. Yeah, I love DJ Doug Pound. I haven't seen a lot of his solo stuff. I watched the Doug Pound YouTube shorts that came out. I want to say it was like during Jash times when that happened. And Tim and Eric started a series of videos around there. It's like where Dr. Wareheim and Tim's Kitchen Tips come from. I think there was a Doug Pound series that I watched, and I've seen him do DJ sets multiple times. I've seen them live, and he is always very funny.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is taking local commercials and jingles and such and working them in. When I saw him in Chicago and doing the Empire Carpet thing and doing like a absolute banger remix of it was super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I've seen his work. I've just not seen it specifically as such. So no opinion.
Yeah. He's into house. DJ Doug Pound.
Okay. Yeah. Exotic Minivan writes, you're in a room where you can only escape by either beating Dark Souls on an N64 controller or Kingdom Hearts. Choose your fate. I'm assuming this is Dark Souls on an N64 controller or just Kingdom Hearts on whatever you would happen to play it with.
I will beat Dark Souls on a Nintendo 64 controller.
Yes.
I hate Kingdom Hearts. I know it's been a fun joke. Will tries to tease me about it. It's been a thing. Something about that series makes me irrationally angry. It makes me feel like an alien that when people compliment it, I don't understand why anyone would want to look at it or be in it or like exist in that sound palette. Deal with those characters. I think it's stupid that they added Final Fantasy and Disney characters, then got rid of all the Final Fantasy characters, and then now only have a couple Disney characters because it's mostly about this original, like these OCs that they made. Organization 13 has 14 people in it. I hate everything about it.
Yeah. Beating Dark Souls on an N64 controller sounds like a fun challenge. People have played and beat Dark Souls on
Donkey Kongas.
Yeah, like somebody played and beat it on a banana. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like that heroic of a fate.
It's also a good game. You know, it's also like the game itself will be fun once I get used to the controls.
Yeah.
Oh, this is me.
Yes.
Zumbini says, what is the scariest moment you've ever seen in a game? For me, it's tied between the spider trap in System Shock 2 or playing the Sierra adventure game Shivers at 13 years old in an empty house. Shivers in an empty house at 13 probably hits.
Yeah, it probably does.
Do you know Shivers?
Yeah, I know Shivers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I figured you did.
Yeah. Scariest moment in a game. I mean, both of these are going to be Silent Hills. And I've told these stories before, but when I was replaying, it was a replay of Silent Hill 2, but I was running down the big woods path at the beginning of it, and I started hearing a weird sound not coming from the TV, like a I had just gotten a cell phone and I didn't realize that it was on vibrate. It was sitting on my nightstand, and I was already like real spooked being like a 14-year-old or whatever, 15-year-old. I was already real spooked, and hearing the sound come from where it shouldn't really got to me.
Yeah, that's good.
That and finding the glutton in Silent Hill 3, the monster that is blocking your way out of the otherworld building level.
Probably for me, it's it's not an early formative one. It's because like early formative one, like just doing the dungeon in Dragon Quest, with that music and the darkness was scary as a kid. But in terms of more modern things, first time you go to the basement in Resident Evil 7, I find that to be expertly scary, staged and scary.
Yes.
Like even though now I know you just like hang out on the other side of the door and they just dissolve.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just very, very full of dread.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan says, lightning round question: Is RE2 remake? Does RE2 remake equal Resident Evil Classic plus Resident Evil 4 divided by 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Jake asks, I feel like you must have addressed this by now, but I don't know where if you have. How did you meet and start this enterprise? We have incredible chemistry, but I've always found it interesting that you started when you live in different parts of the country.
We met on a Something Awful podcast workshop thread.
Yep.
We both liked each other's stuff, and we decided to just collab based on that.
Yep. And then spent, all this time creating chemistry.
When we first sat down to record Mega Man X, the first episode, that was the first time we talked.
Yep. You can hear it. Like we shot the shit for a little bit and then we just like, let's start it. Yeah. Jesse, we gotta respect the chemistry.
That was when you learned I was 23.
Yeah. It was shocking. Yeah. And he keeps getting younger.
Yeah.
For every year I get older, he's getting younger. We're racing the clock.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. Let's move on to the topic.
Let's do topic. Yeah. This is yours, so I'm going to let you phrase it.
Yeah, I didn't take a suggested topic. We had good suggestions and stuff, but something's been in my craw, and it applies to games we did this month. So I want to talk about gaming ineffables would be the good title for this, but more specifically to let you know what that means, I got really wrapped around the axle on Thousand Year Door on charm. What does charm mean? Charming is something that people will apply to a video game, but I have no idea what they mean by that. People all seem to mean something different. And then I was thinking about how that applies to other things. Like we will say a game has good writing, and then somebody will be like, I thought that writing sucked. And some of that's just subjectivity soup, but I think part of it is, what do we mean when we say something has good writing? What do we mean when we say a character is well developed? What do we mean when we say... like things like that, like shorthands we use that we oughtn't use because they actually communicate zero information.
Right. Ineffable, meaning like, oh, this is like way too big or abstract to be summed up with one word, or words that we use are insufficient or incapable of actually containing, what this is. And
a way of saying, reducing what you're saying from descriptive to I like it. If you're just saying, I found this charming, what is the difference between what you actually mean and just being like, I like this? Because I think it's important when talking about games, even outside of our job, but I think just if I'm communicating with somebody and the things I want to hear from them, I want to know more than just like.
Yeah.
What does it mean? So I guess like a way to maybe start this, I think, other than just kind of introducing the concept, and I want to put that in people's heads, is to kind of go, choose a couple of these things and clarify about like what we mean by these things.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. We're talking specifically about this in games. I think that this applies to all kinds of media.
Absolutely.
It does, and we'll probably pull examples from all kinds of media, but like talking about what is good writing in a novel versus what is good writing in a, in a game, different kind of stuff, right? Just because the medium is different. So
it's super different because you have descriptions.
Yeah.
Generally in novels.
Yes.
Which is typically something that you don't do in video game writing. So what do you want to do, charm or writing, and then see what pops out of that? Is there one of those you want to do first?
Yeah. Let's do the big one here. Let's do writing. Because that is, I think, the widest umbrella, and we're gonna find examples to spring to off of that, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So writing is just way too broad. When I start talking about this kind of stuff, I really want to be precise about what I mean, because good or bad writing, you could be referring to the scenario, you could be referring to the dialogue, I think is something that a lot of people kind of mean when they're talking about this kind of stuff. They could be talking about just the way that things are strung together or conveyed through text generally. Like there's just a bunch of stuff that is kind of wrapped around that. When I talk about a game having good writing, oftentimes what I am speaking about, and this is true if I'm saying like, oh, this has a good story or whatever, what that means to me is, does the narrative, the choices made in presenting this narrative, do they make me curious to see what is going to happen next? Is there something inherent to the way that this is put together that makes me want to move forward? Right.
Yeah. And like that is also part of writing, but that's like something that's plotting.
Yes.
Like that is a function of plotting. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like a good plot to me has a compelling and oftentimes, at best of times, kind of fresh hook. It's part of why a save the princess narrative, unless it's like heavily subverted, will bum me out.
Yes.
That's not a very compelling hook. It has been, to borrow from this month's Unfillable, it has been rendered meaningless through repetition.
Yes.
Right. In terms of plot beats, agreed. Like I need to have something that is going to make me, if you're revealing the answer to something, give me a new question. If you are giving me a hint for the grand question of things, you'll have it give me new things to consider. And ideally in both directions.
Yes.
So let me reconsider things I already knew and have things to look out for in the future.
Yes.
Is good plotting.
And that interacts with play too. Like this is very specifically why I'm talking about it in the terms of games, because like, I don't know, good plotting, well, you need to get a hold of something that you do not have ready access to. It's time for a heist, baby. And then the way that is put together and the way that the details of the world can be worked in, and the way that it manages questions answered versus questions raised. I think all of that is kind of put in there even before you get to how is the actual prose holding up.
Yes. When I thought of this question, I was primarily thinking of prose with it, but that's a good point. Like they're the different part of writing and you confuse them at your peril.
Yeah.
The other thing before getting into prose, the other thing is world building.
Yeah.
And world design is part of this as well. That's part of just having a compelling scenario, and that's where I think a lot of freshness, like where you want something that has a hook.
Yes.
You're not just in like a land. And this can go, this is something that is very influenced by your sensitivities. Like I have slightly more allowance for just like we're in ye olde times. And it doesn't have to necessarily have a hook just in the world building at first. Yeah. Ideally, there will be one, eventually, but I can take that as an opening premise.
Yeah. World building alone and intricacy of world building alone is not enough. You need to, game writers or scenario creators, and anybody should find a way to you write the world Bible if you are prone to do that, and find an inventive way to communicate it that is not just tons of text. There is tons, for as text heavy as the game Disco Elysium is, there is a ton about that world that is conveyed, not in the way that it is, just exposition, right? A
huge thing is have the text and the plotting of your game not entirely portrayed in text.
Yeah.
I've been harping on that for my whole video game talking about life, but like you have a medium. Yeah. There are a lot of ways to tell a story. Yeah. Having story explainment just tell you it is a lack of imagination.
Yeah. To take a less fraud example, because Disco Elysium is literary in the way that, just more so than any other, Dishonored.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn a lot about the world Dishonored just by being in it.
Yes.
And its background.
It's, the ability to explore and find things non-linearly is an asset of the medium. Dishonored is really good about that because it allows the player to take advantage of that potential. Yeah.
Yes. And it comes to prose, it's trickier because the thing that whenever somebody says they think something is good or like this has good writing, I want an example. When in a non-confrontational way, if I say like Disco Elysium has good writing and somebody says it has terrible writing, I want to see what they think is good writing. Not because I want to like see, it's not a dick measuring contest or anything. It's just because there's that subjective bit. This is something, the reason why saying good writing, I think is kind of a dead thing to say, because it's just going to literally mean a different thing depending on who's saying it.
Yes.
For me, good prose is punchy. It's if you are using elaborate turns of phrase, you're deploying them, strategically
with great care.
With great care. And for me, dialogue that is good is every character should sound like an individual, but not an archetype.
Yep.
I don't want, I can look at a line of I'm going to use Disco Elysium a lot during this.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best written games of all time. I can look at a line and tell it's by Kim Kitsuragi. The same, I could also tell a line that was by Jack from Final Fantasy, Kill Chaos or whatever, but just because he's a parody.
Yeah.
Because he just says Kill Chaos. Like that is an individual voice, but he's a one-dimensional character.
Yeah.
I want to be able to recognize the character's voice and have them have more dimensions. And I want dialogue and prose to sound naturalistic if it is not unnaturalistic to a specific effect.
Yes.
Like somebody just sounding awkward in a phrase will always bother me unless they are sounding awkward because there's a reason for that.
Yeah, they're lying. They are unsure themselves and are trying to cover that up.
They are an alien.
Yeah.
They're a robot. It's not just a whole weird world of people talking strangely and stiffly for no reason.
Yeah.
You know, like you just because you shot David Lynch doesn't mean you're David Lynch. You don't get to just say, oh, it's Lynchian.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do that. So like a good example of that is, I can't remember the name of the character, the Silent Hill 3, They Look Like Monsters to You guy.
Vincent. Yeah.
Vincent. Great, weird delivery on like a lot of things he's doing, absolutely to a purpose.
Yes.
You know, that is to hint something to you, that is to provide atmosphere. That's doing things.
Yeah.
You know, great, perfect, A+. That's good writing. The things that he's, you know, good delivery and good use of awkward, stilted phrasing.
Yeah. I'm good. You know, I'm in line with you on this. I think I value, you know, all the stuff that you said there. So I'm just going to one up and hone on it here. Like motivated. Everything in prose should be motivated.
Yes.
Because, you know, if you are writing good characters, they want things. Right?
Yep.
And they're trying to get an effect by speaking. Your narrator, you know, regardless of, you know, how omniscient you want it to be, your narrator is also a character, is representing a person. It is using human speech to, you know, to communicate something to the player, to the viewer, to the listener, or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
And if things are unmotivated, that goes back to a root core, you know, kind of a root problem of, well, I've not actually figured out what these characters want, right?
But they may not want anything, you know. So to take a series that I bully a lot, but I'm going to take a good and a bad example from it, right? So contrast the writing in Final Fantasy 12 and Final Fantasy 10.
Yes.
In Final Fantasy 12, the characters want something. Like if you are watching a scene, these characters have a place in the world. They have political motivations. You know, they're allied and in line with the politics of the world. So that allows for subtext, that allows for manipulation. That allows for characters to say things that are packed with meaning based on who they are in the world.
Yes.
Contrast Final Fantasy X, where those characters are all individually sketched. There's a difference between, you know, Riku and
Waka.
Lulu.
Yeah.
Waka, you know. Yeah. But how much of that dialogue is them standing around just kind of wondering what to do, you know, next in their journey?
Yeah.
Not in a way that reveals anything, not in a way that tells you anything about the world. It's just like, well, I guess we better go back here on this road trip.
Yeah.
You know, we got to find the next temple.
Yeah.
You know, this comes up a lot in games where everyone has to comment on a thing, but they're not important enough to like justify their fucking existence.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I like some of those characters. Why are they there?
Yeah.
It's just a ragtag bunch. You know, the worst example of that being Golden Sun, where every character comments on everything that happens. Also happens in Bravely Default.
Yes.
Like everyone, those characters are different archetypes. You know, they're not 0 dimensions. They're 1.5 dimensional characters. They don't want things unless you're in their quest zone. You know, unless you're specifically pursuing their backstory. They all have something to say about everything that happens. It's just flavored like their one personality trait. See, you know, Paper Mario with Koops just putting before all the things that everyone else would say.
Yeah.
Good writing needs to justify itself. Good writing is edited.
Yeah.
Characters should not say things that do not need to be said. And information that does not need to be, and need is broad. Like need can enforce character, atmosphere, detail, world building. There are a lot of things that need, but if you can't find a need, don't put it in there.
Right.
That will kill your pacing, and I think that makes bad writing.
Yeah. And like the way to evaluate, like not something you're making, because we're not giving people advice on, you know, their own
This
stuff,
is a writing workshop.
right?
This is, we're saying what we mean when we say good writing.
Yeah. But just like just to like turn yourself into a gadfly, or put somebody else in the scene who's going to be a gadfly, who, you know, on a particular, pick a like a line of dialogue, just ask, hey, why'd you say that?
Yeah. I think that in playing video games, Eastern and Western, all kinds of video games, why was this here? all the time. Like, what made this character pipe up? Is it just to remind the player that character exists? Because I don't need that, because it's a visual medium.
Yeah.
And it's also a gameplay medium where I'm reminded that character exists because presumably I'm interacting with them through play as well.
Yes.
You know, when you try to, there are so many video games that are written as if they don't have a visual and gameplay component.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the crux of that. Like, the best writing does take advantage of those things.
Yeah.
You know, and
it doesn't have to be, oh, go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, like, you take something very literary like Disco Elysium, and you'd be like, how does that, I got you. How does that apply to that? And it does, because it's communicating things about, since the most of the dialogue in that are aspects of your person, it's always communicating something about Harry Dubois. It's communicating something about the game's philosophy on the forces that we have in our body. You know, the parts of our brain that talk to us, the concerns we have as people, and teaching us, they're hiding the world building in that. You know, you'll get a description of a place, but you'll also get your character and kind of their philosophy laid out through that. No one's just saying, yeah. You know, I also would like that.
Except, you know, outside of Kuno S. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kuno is communicating a lot too about that world and what it's like to grow up there and everything. Like, just pack your things with meaning. You know,
and I will also say this, talking about it in terms of in terms of play, it doesn't. If you're going to make the text interruptive, boy, should there be a reason for it.
Yeah.
Like, why is this stopping me? And so something I did after we did Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, I fired up Paper Mario Origami King. Okay, because I picked that up shortly after it came out with all the intention in the world of playing it. Didn't, bad on me, happens to everybody. But I just, I picked it up and played, like 2-3 hours in, and it is just, the dialogue stuff is so much better, because a lot of the things that would have been just like somebody chiming in to let you know they exist, and you have to tap through it because it's all presented linearly, they handle it like Mario Wonder, where you walk by people and then you see
they say it.
They just you just see that, like, the dialogue box pop up, and even like your companion will do that, and just like, that's not interrupted, but the text is still there. That's great.
That's really good. You know what's infuriating is that Thousand Year Door does that in the very beginning of it. When you like, when you're making your way up to the town, it does that, and then just forgets it can do it.
Yeah.
Like, no, we have to stop you for this.
And I will also be way more forgiving on writing or just stuff there. If it's not if it's not interruptive, but it has something to do with the interaction, right? So think of a survival horror game when you go up and examine something, and it could just be like, oh, there's nothing interesting here, but that is a place for good stuff to go. And the best games that like use that space well will use that to convey something about the character, right?
Yeah.
Think of Heather Mason, looking at something in the mall level and saying like, yeah, there was a time where I would have taken that, but I grew out of my shoplifting phase or whatever. That's something a teenage girl would say and think. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Feels real.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like just a video game saying, I don't know what to do with that. Like a parser, rejecting your command.
Yeah.
In something. That's what I mean by it, aside from just all the actual Ineffables. Like, this is something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
There are little things that are pet peeves, but they don't necessarily make for bad writing.
Yeah.
Like being deluged with proper nouns.
Yes.
I think that information should be, can be deployed a lot better. But it's not necessarily the same thing. With this.
No.
But connected.
Yes. There's stuff that comes down to taste, right? Like a very, for me, like a very well deployed, just like emotional or symbolic statement that is like very catchy. Like that will hit me hard, right? But that can be overdone, and it can be used incorrectly, or you might not want something like that. It's hard for me to say that like every example of those is good writing, because the fact that they stick out as much kind of works against that. But it is still there, and something that will appeal to me just on a taste basis, right?
Yeah. If you're not doing writing that is about characters or supporting a theme or anything, I question whether you need it.
Yeah.
In a game. This is what also known as Zelda. We just did Link Between Worlds, and that has some theme work in it. There are still too many words in that, but is it about character and is it about something?
Yeah.
When I think about like Ocarina of Time, I don't think Ocarina of Time is about anything.
No.
Really. Like, I don't know what the weighty theme that justifies all of the text in Ocarina of Time is. Dump it. Like,
Yep.
You might get good prose, like it's possible good prose would happen in there, but if it's not in service of something that is worth serving, it will fall flat for me.
Well, draw a connection between that and Majora's Mask. Right.
Yes. Which is about something.
Yeah.
Like there are themes, different NPCs you're working on in that game have different things they're about.
Yes.
Huge difference. Night and day.
Just all of this gets down to like philosophically, I believe that fiction should be about humans. Which is not me saying like don't include like elves or robots or whatever. Elves and robots, we came up with them. They reflect aspects of ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
Those are people as well.
Yes. Everything should have humanity in it. If you're talking about the world, it should be about the way people relate to it. That to me is kind of the only thing that matters.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Charm is harder to define.
Yeah.
Than that, but like that's the thing that started me thinking about this, so I want to talk about it just for a minute. We talked about this a little bit in the 1,000-Year Door episode, but I think charm, the way most people use it, is almost all subjective things. Like it doesn't, and this is all subjective to a degree, but I don't think it communicates anything. Like when somebody says like, "Oh, this is charming," like a short hike, a game I like.
Yeah.
You can say like, "This game is charming." I don't think that ever means anything. Like it's a thing that, has to exist, but it's like, this should be one of the greatest mysteries of science.
Yeah.
Because like, it's something kind of cute. As much as I can narrow it down is cute, lightly humorous without being funny, very light in purpose, not about anything serious.
Maybe a little quirky.
Yes, sometimes
I think
quirk
falls into that too.
Yeah. It can be that.
Charming.
It's just
go ahead. No, sorry.
It's just I want to strike it from the language. I don't. If I'm reading about a video game and someone says it's charming, that is not better than saying nothing.
I want to throw it out because it's imprecise.
Yes,
Yeah.
and not really capable of much precision. Having asked a lot of people, in good faith, like curious, I was like, what do you mean by that? I put out a thing on Blue Sky when I was on Blue Sky. That was like, hey, what do you mean by charm when you call something charming? And you get a lot of different answers that all basically boil down to lightly funny and cute.
Yeah.
And light of purpose.
Yes.
Like is not serious, in a non-derogatory form of lacks drama.
Non-derogatory, frivolous.
Yes. Yeah. Is the idea. And using charming for that as something that is a compliment, doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like describing something as like, I understand frivolous sounds worse, but it's much more accurate than
right.
that.
So here's the thing that bugs me about charming, and in talking about this, it kind of unlocks something for me. Charming sucks because charm is a verb. Charming is something that is done to you. Right.
Yes.
And there is a you that is that is inherent there, like from a part of speech kind of thing. Like it's a wrong fit, and that's why I tend to prefer saying something is charismatic. Right. Yeah. That is a trait inherent to the thing. And that, that is say just like, oh, this is like, there is something about this that is that is likable through aesthetic effort. This thing, is drawing me in a very approachable way. Right.
Yeah. And even that could stand to be broken down.
Yes.
Like charismatic is a step up, but can still stand to be broken down.
Yeah.
I think.
I would say West of Loathing is a very charismatic game. Right.
Yeah. And then if I wanted to unpack that, I feel like it's not the best word for it. It's just the shortest, right? Because like what I actually mean is it's funny. Like it has funny writing, it has funny gags,
unrelentingly so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and a lot of times what people mean, I think when they say charming is they actually mean funny, but then when I say lightly funny, that's what I mean. Well, like a little bit of light slapstick, a couple things that are almost jokes. Maybe some smile out loud moments.
If I had worse faith, or if I wanted to be a little bit mean about it, I would say people say something is charming when they mean that it is joke shaped, but they could not defend it if they said it is funny.
That's how I feel about it.
Show me something in Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door that is funny. There's funny lines. Right. Yeah. There's, some amusing situations that happen, but tell me where you laughed here. And it's like, well, it's, it's just kind of jokey. It's like there's jokish stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically how I feel.
Charming about it. It's cowardly. Own it.
It's a way of saying it's funny without saying it's funny, while also saying it isn't funny.
Yeah.
I also want to carve out when I was doing my thinking on this, carve out a little space for quaint, which I think is a better descriptor of what I mean a lot of times for charming. And I'll use an example. Like quaint is like when you play, Duke Nukem 3D and you do the little like cute things like this guy burst through a wall on a little jetpack. And if you go back in there, you can see the toilet he was using.
Yeah. That's quaint.
It's quaint, or like something can be like janky. Like you play like an old, like Maniac Mansion is charismatic because of the scenario design, the characters, the sound design and stuff. It's also really quaint. Like going through collecting a can of Pepsi, to give the tentacle and stuff. That's not necessarily laugh out loud funny. It's weird, but it's kind of quaint.
Yeah.
In a way that I feel.
Yeah.
Or Slayer's X.
Yes.
Kind of quaint.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like it's actually funny. I would use that word for it, but it's also kind of quaint. Because it's this idea of this kid who's made this, made these levels based on his hometown.
Yes.
Like cute or quaint.
This like quaint edges into cozy too, and I think that just having been and just seen cozy kind of play out, I literally think that what people mean is this has a soft aesthetic. Built around a repetitive or job-like, some people might say capitalistic kind of framework, right?
Yeah. With almost little or no conflict.
Yes,
like drama light, conflict light, lightness of purpose.
Yes,
is cozy.
Yeah. I'm really excited about the new Davey Wreden game because I want people to be like drawn in about like a cozy game about witches and then just be fucking destroyed by them.
Yeah, absolutely emotionally in tears. Yeah. I'm pretty excited for it as well. Not to sadism because I want to have that subversion.
Same. Yeah.
It's and I'm also a fan of his games. I want to see what he does with it.
Yeah.
And my friend Carla worked on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a thing where knowing what we mean by these things makes it helps both ways, right? So like if somebody's ragging on cozy games, like every once in a while on the Slack, we'll have some cozy game discourse.
Yes.
Because there are people who are sick of cozy gamification and cozy games, people who still like them and get frustrated. And I think if we just used the term and we're just like, that's just not for me, we'd be so much, we'd be better off. Like, I don't really like games that are, that revolve around like a work, a repetitive, calming task that are largely conflict or drama light.
Yeah. I want to play something with stakes, right?
Yeah, I like stakes. And that could be the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
It just isn't. And I'm guilty of this too because I get frustrated by cozy.
Well, I mean, it's the quickest
taking up a lot of
word.
air in the room. And it's taking up a lot of air in the room right now. It feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a little bit rambly, but I think if any action item comes from this, it's that when you use just a one-word descriptor to describe a game, even if you don't necessarily want to write it out, it is helpful to know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Like walking away being like, that has really good writing. Like, Sir Bronte. We both thought that had good writing. In the episode, we didn't just say good writing. Yeah. We pointed to examples of what we thought were good writing.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as we should have, but we aim to, or at least I aim to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to exclude you. I'm just trying to remember what that episode was like.
Right.
But I think that is virtuous in thinking about games.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. What I want you to take away is value precision in all things.
Yeah. Yeah. Describe things as they are.
Yeah.
If I had my dream world, things would just be described as what they are.
Yep.
And there wouldn't be these kind of shortcuts.
Yes.
Yeah. Let us move on to responses.
Let us do. I need to find that tab. Here we go. I will start us with Paper Mario responses, because that was the first game we did. Vivian says, "Hi. I'm trans, and I stole my name from Vivian in this game. She was my first exposure to transgender characters in games, and evidently that made a big impression on me. I'm glad they made it more explicit in the re-release. Also, can you believe that they removed the feature to skip through text quickly in the remake? It might make emulating it worth it instead, to be honest. It's so much slower now. I didn't know that. And
I didn't know that.
I want to pull the moon from the sky. I want to be Sephiroth and call down a meteor on everybody who made that decision. What the fuck are you thinking?
I don't. Yeah, I can't. Congratulations, Vivian.
Yeah,
representation is awesome.
Yeah,
in that, and Vivian's a great name.
It's a good name.
Yeah, but I didn't know that they did that in the original version. You have to choose between having fast travel or that. I bet you it's so they're the same length. I bet you they got rid of that because fast travel made it too short. So they had to tax you a few seconds every dialogue. Fucking bleak.
I want to rip my head off and throw it at somebody.
Yeah, just that's bleak. Brian says, "Hi guys, love the show. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door was the first game I ever played co-op with my younger sister. I'm around Cole's age. My sister is about 3 years younger. We would read the dialogue in funny voices to each other, and I would pretend to struggle with puzzles so she could help. I can still remember how happy she was when our little egg hatched as a baby pink Yoshi. When we had the option to name the Yoshi, I asked my sister for suggestions, and she very enthusiastically exclaimed Pinkerton, a fun name for a fun character. Cut to me almost a decade later playing BioShock Infinite and learning about the Pinkertons. My 12-year-old sister definitely didn't know about that name, what that represented, right? Right?
What was your little sister in the John Birch Society?
Yeah, your little sister was a big fan of Rivers Cuomo's series of songs about underage Japanese women. So that's what it was about.
Yeah. And so anybody listening, if you want to get your response read on the air, make it like this, because that is fucking adorable.
It's very cute. Yeah. That's super cute.
Yeah. Just any shared stories, with people like that. I adore it. Yeah. Gary writes, "When I first heard you both cover the original Paper Mario on N64 back in the day, I enjoyed it so much. Shout out to Goomberry, Gary's Goomba stalker. I forgot about that."
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was like 14 years ago.
That's true. Yeah. They continue. "I always hoped that you guys would someday cover the next game in the series. I'm thrilled that you are. This is always what I consider to be my favorite game of all time. I could wax poetic about it for hours. The hilarious dialogue that gives every character a distinct voice, a dedication to world building and theming, an incredibly unique and memorable soundtrack, just complicated enough RPG systems, and its fun and adorable art style. Man, what a game. I'm really hoping you both enjoyed the game as much as I do, despite a few flaws that I admit caused the game to show its age a bit, i.e. backtracking segments. I hope we didn't disappoint you, Gary."
Yes. Not me, Gary.
Yeah.
Gary who wrote in.
Yes.
No, I mean, some of the things that you really like about this, I also really loved about it.
Yep.
I think it is aesthetically beautiful. I like the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I like the RPG system.
Yeah.
Just whatever, see the previous segment, whatever is translating this dialogue to hilarious for you, I just don't have. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't take it away from you if I could. Yeah. But for empathy reasons, I'm imagining, I think I said this in the episode, if I liked the story and dialogue of this would have been, and like pacing, it would have been like a really, really good game for me.
Yeah.
The converse is also true. Like if you can imagine what it would be like if this dialogue didn't do very much for you,
And I need everybody, I need to find a way to say this that isn't patronizing. I need everybody to write in to include their age.
Oh, sure.
Because I want to know, right? Like when this game came out, 2002, I think it was, 2004. I was like 15, 16 at that point. So like maybe it wouldn't have been the case. But like, if you play this at 12, like that is relevant information to me, because that is going to start, and not just out of nostalgia, but not out of nostalgia. That I think is going to determine quite a bit of your relationship to it.
The impact some of these gags and humor style and the plotting will have. Things that felt like busy work to me, like backtracking to the island to get the mafioso's children, could have been a cool plot point depending on when it was exposed to you, or you were exposed to it. Like, oh, this is cool. Like, he actually is asking me to help with his family, and I have to go back somewhere. That's cool. Like, I could understand being at an age where that actually felt like a feature, not a bug.
And even stuff like the gag of everything taking forever. Right? Like,
yes.
if we can say that is a terrible use of somebody's time, but like, I have probably laughed at something like that in the past.
Austin Powers piece for a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though that got disillusioned for me when I listened to the Austin Powers commentary in my early 20s and them talking about how genius it was.
Oh, geez.
And,
no.
they're like, it wraps around from unfunny to funny again. And you're just, you found life, you found meaning in this. And I'm like,
there was a fuck,
dude.
There was a fucking Radiolab segment about the Kristen Schaal as a horse bit, which it was just Jad Abumrad like going full, just going full ham on talking about the philosophical implications of something that starts funny, stops being funny, and then becomes funny again. And I hated it.
Yeah, it's not cool to explain that kind of thing.
No.
Yeah. Andrew says, friend of the show, Andrew, I played Thousand Year Door when it first came out and was totally blown away. I love the combat, the variety of scenarios. I will always remember beating I will always remember being the final boss because I managed to do a super guard right before she lost her last health point to burn that Vivian had inflicted on her. In the years since, I've been disappointed with all of the Mario RPGs to different degrees, feeling that they never hit the heights of A Thousand Year Door and Superstar Saga. I know this is a very unique opinion. Between having ProZD's playthrough on in the background while I worked and listening to Gary's hints in the episodes leading up to this one, I realized what worked for me as a kid who got limited games each year and wanted each one to last forever might not hold up to adult eyes. Unlike Mario at the end of the game, you can't go home again. Oh well, at least Mario and Luigi Brothership is coming out soon. Surely that will be the one to finally be as good as the one I played as a kid.
Oh, maybe. It's not likely, but maybe.
Yeah, hope springs eternal.
Yeah.
That feeling of length as a purely virtuous thing as a kid is definitely like kid coded and real.
Yeah.
The idea of just this goes on forever, no matter what it's going on forever doing, just being fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Is super kid coded. Like I remember having that feeling as a child.
Yeah.
It made me in 32-bit Final Fantasies, it made me want to go do all of the ultra side stuff to get things you don't need for the end. It's like what Knights of the Round is made for, or Fighting the Weapons is made for.
Yeah.
Like sometimes those are kind of interesting fights. Sometimes they're not, but you have to go through a lot of hoops though to get there. Like Chocobo Eugenics is not fun. I just did it because it was extant.
Yes.
It's more of the thing.
It was in front of me. And we said it during the episode, but like there was a time when just having a text at all in games, like writing, was a little bit of a novelty if you came up on console kind of stuff. So like, combined with that, I also would go around and inspect anything because there might be something funny there, undeterred by what
the content of that bubble is,
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that there was a container that could have writing in it was the exciting part, not what was inside the container.
Yeah, undeterred by the fact that very little of what I saw was actually worth reading.
Yeah, almost none of it. And the thing that changed in me, in addition to just kind of becoming more protective of my time and having a wider exposure to media, is respecting games more, I think. Right? Like me wanting words in a game to be worth reading is something I should have wanted the whole time. It is no longer a dazzling magic trick just to have words in games.
Right.
It's a big boy medium. I consider games to be an artistic medium, which means I think that the rules of art should apply to them.
Yeah.
That kind of like specificity of purpose and editing and having things nailed down. Like, why would games, these things that have as many words as books do, why should they be excluded from that?
Yeah.
If you're reading a book and you wouldn't have somebody walking back and forth saying the king lives in the castle, why is that okay in a game?
Yeah.
There were tech restraints at one point, but why is it okay in Golden Sun?
Yeah.
where it doesn't have those tech restraints.
Yeah. That's that is the actual good side of the games as art conversation, which is as old as the hills and basically useless. Not the my teacher can't get mad at me for playing a video game instead of doing homework side of it. Not the everybody should respect me for having this hobby side of it. Right.
That's the silly part.
Yeah. Is this me? It is. Dylan writes, Gary and Cole's feelings about the Thousand Year Door's writing in the first episode reflected my own upon playing this and other tentpole Nintendo games of this era, especially Ocarina of Time. Like Ocarina, I didn't play through the Thousand Year Door until I was in my mid-20s, and both games made me do the Arrested Development. Really, her? Reaction to the effusive praise that I had previously seen. There's a distinct kind of condescension to some of these games' writing, the kind of kids media that feels like it's talking down to children rather than meeting them on their level and trusting their burgeoning intelligence. I really felt this when I first played Ocarina when I was 27 and hated the guts out of that dumbass owl interrupting anything remotely interesting with "Be brave, Link, the journey is hard," as if I needed to be held by my mom after watching a Goron dance. Brutal. Likewise, the Thousand Year Door lacks all of that ephemeral thing called charm, and how much it feels like each line was written with an implicit smiley face emoji. I don't find it as cloying as Ocarina, but my adult first-time playthrough and revisit through your episode made me think it's a good example of the difference between something being accessible to kids and something being pejoratively childish.
Yeah, largely agreed.
Yeah.
Well said. It is part of, because of the medium that we work in, part of my whole journey has been being, it's okay for me to like things for adults.
Yeah.
Because so much of the canon in this hobby are kids products, and the interesting thing is that the kids products that hold up for me do not do this and are very writing light. Because they're not trying to engage with that at all. Like, I think Super Metroid is still a masterpiece. I think Super Mario World is still a masterpiece because they're not leaning on, things that the medium does that, yes, they're good for kids. Like, those games teach you how to play them, but it's like time tested and they're not competing with just writing or just kids entertainment in general.
Something like the Intelligent or the Incredible Machine, right?
Yeah.
Kids game.
We said that. We said, but it's also, that game is a kid's game that respects you because it's like you play, that game lets you, it doesn't treat kids as stupid.
Yes.
We talked about this during the episode, like, don't talk down to children. We are in a golden age for children's entertainment that doesn't do that. There's no longer a need for this.
You don't have to. No.
You don't have to. Kids are smart.
Yeah.
Christina says, howdy. First time, long time. When you announced you were doing this game, I both hooted and hollered at work because I was so excited. I apologize if this is a bit long. The game has meant so much to me ever since it was announced in Nintendo Power when I was 9. I cut out every picture of it in the magazine and collaged them together on the lamp on my nightstand. That's great. Then when I was 17 and applied for a job at a nursing home, the interviewer asked what my favorite game was. I nervously blurted out that this was the game that I would take into hospice with me, and somehow still got the job. One summer break, I marathoned the game from start to finish over 80 hours, stopping only for necessities. I would fall asleep with the controller in my hands and resume playing when I woke up. After college, when life was going particularly rough, I made a Let's Play. Then in 2011, submitted the game through
2021.
Sorry, thank you. Then in 2021, I submitted the game through a Guppy review that Will almost read several times before getting creative with the order he read the reviews in. And lastly, reading about the game online back in the day and finding out Vivian was trans was really helpful in figuring out that I am too. So the confirmation and the remake after my own transition felt like we got to come out together. Thank you so much for the wonderful podcast you do. And that was a 5-star review. I'll pass it on to Will.
That's all very sweet.
That's excellent.
Yeah. There's something about that little kid, just like anticipation,
A lamp collage is very cute.
It is. Yeah.
Love that.
I will start with Quake stuff. The Good Lucy says, I remember where I was when I learned about mouse and keyboard as a control scheme. My friends and I had passed around Doom, Duke Nukem, and Strife, an episode I will have to sponsor at some point. So do it, please.
Strife is sick. Do you know about Strife?
No, I don't.
It is also a Night Dive remastered it. It's kind of a proto hybrid between like a boomer shooter and an immersive sim. Like you spend time, or like it feels a little bit like what Daikatana should have been.
Okay.
Like you spend time talking to people and like getting through checkpoints and stuff, and like dealing with little side quests and everything, and then go into boomer shoot mode.
Oh, that sounds
like
cool.
It's like the next evolution up from a Duke Nukem or Blood. It feels like.
It sounds like the Tech War game.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, like a missing link between System Shock 2 and like Duke Nukem 3D or something.
Yeah. I had no idea. But they continue. They had passed those games around. So we knew our way around keyboard FPS games. Sure, we knew you could swap the CD. I played Quake 1 with the Master of Puppets album instead of the soundtrack. But I, for one, had never considered using the mouse to aim. In the basement of my friend's house, he booted the game and showed me the ropes. I was floored. He aimed so quickly and accurately, he could move and shoot so easily. It was a dark sorcery that changed my perspective on FPS games forever.
Yeah, absolutely revolutionary.
And it's weird that something so basic, people who are not only alive but young, were around for the invention of it.
Yeah, that was still used today.
Yeah,
controller setups, dual stick setups are very popular, obviously, but like people who play on PC, especially seriously, do still play with mouse and keyboard. Like it's not like Counter-Strike players or CS:GO players are using dual stick,
right?
If they can help it. Robin says, I just finished the modern remaster of Quake, and it completely changed how I feel about the game. This is entirely down to the controls. I'd played the game in the 90s on probably a Pentium 1 with, I assume, keyboard only, since I had done so for Doom, and also on digital gamepad on the Sega Saturn. In both cases, I remember Quake as a slow-paced affair of kiting enemies into position where you could hit them and they couldn't hit you. Almost a cover shooter. 30 years later, I played at blazing speeds with the dual analog controls. I realized that you're meant to be constantly moving and shooting, working offensively to take your enemies off the map before they can do much damage to you. Just an insane level of newfound respect for the game, especially the fourth episode's design philosophy of juicing you to the gills with temporary buffs and then throwing everything at you in a spiraling maze. Charmingly diabolical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
You should go to the Sandy Peterson YouTube channel and say your Quake levels are charmingly diabolical. I bet you'd appreciate that.
He would love that, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know the guy, but...
Yeah, it seems like he would.
Yeah. Elliot writes, Quake has been a part of my life since I was 7 years old. Around that time, my dad would bring home his work computer on a Friday night where we would install a copy of Diablo 1 and Quake, crowd around the tiny screen, and play it all weekend before uninstalling it on Sunday night, where he would take the computer back to work. When my dad, rad as hell. When my dad finally bought us a PC, I would play Quake for hours, downloading maps and mods from Planet Quake and the like. And from this, I knew gaming was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. For me, Quake goes down as the greatest, almost best game ever. Its fluid movement set a standard. Excellent sound effects that elicit immediate Pavlovian responses in me to this very day, and its surreal atmosphere is overshadowed and held back by a fractured id software that needed to finish a wanting project and go their separate ways. It's from a, quote, better time that laid the foundations of what FPS and computers could do, as well creating the template for a community modding scene that feels all but lost in some ways. I'd love to see a new Quake that possibly adheres closer to the original design document, mostly because I think id Software could pull it off like the new Dooms, but mainly to see if an arena shooter with online deathmatch would excel in today's world, or tell me once and for all that it's time to move on. Thanks so much for picking this game, Cole. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. A good pick.
Yeah.
I would play a new updated Quake.
Same.
I'd check that out. Like I'm curious how they did it in terms of like something that was like the design document with the Hellgate cube and stuff. That is Daikatana kind of.
Yeah.
And Daikatana is not very good, obviously. I wonder if that has been fixed in any way. Like if there are patches and mods and overhauls that like address some of the shit with that.
Maybe.
I think that would be a cool thing for a fan to do. Let's fix up this thing that obviously has potential that doesn't quite work.
Yeah. I don't know.
Finally, Dylan says, So this story is actually about Quake 3 Arena instead of the original Quake, but when else am I going to share it? I promise it's worth it. In the mid to late 2000s, I went to an AP-IB high school in North Florida where everyone was a nerd, which was 90% a good thing. At the end of my freshman year, the senior prank was to put Quake 3 on every computer in the school. I have no idea how they did this, but they somehow installed Quake 3 on the system itself so that Quake 3 was the default program, like Microsoft Word, whenever you logged into your personal student account. All of the computers were in the same system throughout the school, so we effectively had a school-wide LAN party for Quake 3. Some of the teachers didn't care since it was the last 2 weeks of school, and we were just past our AP and IB exam period anyway, so what were they going to teach us? Side note, senior year, my AP biology teacher showed us just how good she was at Guitar Hero 3. A school-wide LAN party for Quake 3 was just as awesome as it sounds. I don't think I'll ever be as good or have as much fun at first-person shooters as back then. It's one of my best gaming memories, and it was right in that time when all of us 14 and 50-year-old freshmen could have fun together regardless of social background in an otherwise stratified Florida city. That does sound sick.
That story made me profoundly wistful.
Yeah. It would be, so you would fail because businesses fail.
Yes.
If in some town that was like a cool town where people like doing stuff, if someone were to take, an old building, keep it themed as it is, but put a building wide LAN party in it, I could almost see that working out.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you could go to, the theming is important.
Yes.
Like there's a company up here in the Pacific Northwest called McMinimans. It is a restaurant chain of exceedingly mediocre food. But one of the things they do that is cool is that they tend to not build new construction. They take over old construction and keep the theming. So like the coolest one to my mind is the Kennedy School, which is an old school that is just now a bar and event space. So like there's a bunch of bars and classrooms. There is a gymnasium where they put on concerts. There's the theater section. They have movies. In the pool, they have like a community pool. And then it has a bunch of rooms that are made into hotels. You can stay there as a hotel. But it's all classroom. Like you go down to the boiler room and it's a bar. You go to the principal's office and it's like it's where they have their admin stuff.
Yeah.
Do that, but just have it be a LAN party thing.
That is so fucking cool. Yeah.
Keep the theming. It is really cool. It sucks that it's attached to this like pretty decrepit restaurant.
Yeah.
Fun place to see movies though. They took it's the theater section, and instead of having theater seatings, it's all couches.
Oh,
they just filled up the floor with couches.
Oh God, I don't trust I don't trust those to be clean.
I don't. At that point, cleaning isn't necessarily what you're thinking about. You just kind of have to go whole hog on it.
I guess.
Or not, or avoid it. But I thought it was charming.
Yeah.
I thought it was quaint. I thought it was.
Oh no!
No. I thought I wasn't too worried about the dirt because I would clean my clothes, and I thought it was comfortable and visually striking.
Yeah. The other stuff about it outweighed potential hygiene concerns
for me.
Yeah.
But like just a thing you go to, a LAN, like the LAN party, and it's it's a Dairy Queen that they've remodeled.
Yeah.
And it just has a bunch of tables set up with that, and you can just rent it out. That sounds sick.
Very specifically, not like an RGB nightmare cyber cafe kind of thing.
No. I know things kind of like that exist, but they suck.
Yeah.
Like I want the thing, but cool.
Mm-hmm. And just like have nights themed after particular games, right? So this is AOE. Yeah.
Yep. They kind of do a little bit of that at Ground Control. From time to time, but not to this degree, not the scale I want.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Just about. We have one last task.
We do before we climb into our little sardine can and roll the cover back on.
For the weekend.
Yes. And that is to announce games. So if you have thoughts about August's games, which are Super Baseball 2020 for the SNES, XCOM 2 with the War of the Chosen expansion, or Illusion of Gaia. I had to correct myself because we swapped it out. Or Illusion of Gaia. You have until the 15th of August to write in at Duckfeed.tv/contact. Please keep your responses brief and specific.
Yeah. And if, nobody's asked this, but if you'd rather play the Genesis version of Super Baseball 2020, that's fine.
Yes.
I think that the original arcade version won't work. It's not the same, but Genesis or Super Nintendo version. I just chose Super Nintendo because that's how I played it.
Yeah.
As a kid.
Baseball with rivets.
Yep, robots and a bunch of weird rules and stuff. It's fun. It's still fun.
Yeah.
I don't have the next games in front of me, so I'm going to pass that on to Cole.
You're going to pass it on to me.
I am.
So this is a weird month. Okay, so I'll say the first one. The first game we're doing is another shorty. It is Super Bomberman 2. The Super Nintendo Bomberman has a single player campaign, and that is going to be a structured way for us to talk about Bomberman in general. Both of us love that. Back when we were doing like live shows where we had the game at the table, like we were always on the edge of doing Bomberman as one of those. Yeah.
It's a series we both have a lot of affection for that we never talked about.
Yes.
And this one has a campaign. So there's a structure to the episode, even though we'll also probably talk about multiplayer Bomberman a little bit. Which is a blast. Bomberman's sick. I love Bomberman. That little dude.
Yeah. The next game, they said it couldn't be done. We had a patron who demanded City of Heroes, and we're going to do it. We're going to do City of Heroes, like that. It has officially sanctioned fan servers. Stay tuned for details on which one. Like with any multiplayer thing, we want to encourage people to play along with us. But yeah, we're doing an MMO.
Yeah. Steven demanded this. We also, I hope, set a realistic expectation for what this done. People have mentioned MMOs before. The reason why we haven't done them before is because of time commitment, mostly. I'm generally not a huge fan of them. That's part of it, but it was also time. It's mostly you don't really understand it because you didn't get into the end game stuff. We're getting all that stuff out in Front Street. Like I'm going to play City of Heroes through like the opening arc. And get a taste for it and the mechanics of it and everything, and we're going to speak to that.
Yes.
We are operating on faith that is useful.
Yeah.
There probably are City of Heroes podcasts that get really deep in the nitty gritty, the long extended storylines and stuff. We're not going to do that. We can't do that. That can't be us, and we can't be that and who we are at the same time.
Right.
So,
so also I think it helps that this is an MMO that is long dead.
Yes.
It is not one that people in Gem Pop are actively currently still playing.
Yes. Yeah. So there's less meta to it. Yeah. It also means that I can maybe finally hunt down Dr. Bong and the Fart Shaman. The two people probably single-handedly most responsible for me not getting into MMOs.
Dr. Bong and the Fart Shaman?
Yeah, I've told this story before. I played City of Heroes, actually. This is the MMO I went the deepest on. Created a character, and I wanted to roleplay it. I made a character named the Golem. He had earth powers. It was real cool. I was doing the opening quests and stuff, moving around. And I did whatever the thing is, like look for team. I put on a team with Dr. Bong and the Fart Shaman. And we were kind of cruising through a quest. We were jumping past these crevasses in the ground. And I fell into one of the crevasses, and they both started roasting me and calling me slurs and stuff. Like that was foolish, Dr. Golem, and then called me the F slur and stuff. And I was like, I don't like people.
Yeah.
I don't want to play with strangers. I don't like gaming as a solitary activity.
Yeah.
Like, why would I what is the Mass Movie multiplayer part of this is all downside to me, like that sucks.
Yeah.
And I know how to deal with that and not have my feelings hurt by it or not be discouraged now. I just was like kind of excited about trying a new thing.
Yeah.
And didn't, the two ambassadors to it just being awful put me off.
Related to that, Dennis from the Level started playing City of Heroes a couple of years ago. Was in a guild that was real fun until it turned into all like sex role play.
Oh,
so that is a thing in City of Heroes. Just to be aware of.
I hope the Fart Shaman is cleaning up in that stuff, because like that taps people's fetishes for farts and the papyrus font.
Yeah. So there was an amicable parting between Dennis and his guild.
Yeah. This isn't what I'm playing. So I mean, we're just gonna talk about the experience.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. And then finally Fable 2, which got shunted from this month because XCOM 2 is very, very long. Then we're doing Fable 2. That's our premium episode. Illusion of Gaia is our premium episode for August. Everybody's gonna get the generalities for those. Only patrons are going to get the full thing.
Yes.
At $5 a month.
Which we feel is reasonable, especially because it comes with so much other stuff. Bonfireside Chat is back in full swing as the time you hear this. And there's other stuff too, like Unfilmable, bonus episodes of Abject Suffering. It's all there. Duckfeed.tv patreon.com/DuckFeedTV.
Yeah. If you are a marginalized creator and have a project or product you'd like me to shout out, please send me an email at gary@duckfeed.tv. Include a pitch and your pronouns, website. We actually have a couple of them in the hopper, but I decided not to do those on premium episodes because it's a little awkward. And then on dispatches, because I don't know if everyone listens to the end of those.
Right.
But we got a couple of them for this month. We still have room for that. Funny anecdote. I can't remember if I told you this, Cole. Somebody joined the Slack and they were talking about how they looked us up. And when we started doing this, the thing, somebody was like, I used to listen to those guys, but they went woke during the pandemic. Which is very funny to me. This was the thing that woke us up. Was this 3 minutes at the end of some episodes?
Not our decade of trans activism.
Yeah. They don't give a shit about that. The pandemic did it.
Yeah. Okay.
So we got the pandemic brainworms that turned us woke. Isn't it like quaint derogatory that people are still writing things like that on Kotaku in action? Like that still exists, and then people are just I don't think about you at all.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't thought about you since 2014.
Yeah.
You stupid forum.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, anyway, that happened.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Big thanks to Gwen, our producer. Big thanks to everybody who rates and reviews us on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast. And we'll see you next week.
We will.
Bye-bye.
Bye.